Keir Starmer's recent holiday in Madeira has sparked yet another wave of controversy. And this time the details surrounding it are even more baffling. While the initial reports about his family holiday and his infamous queue jumping incident at a toboggan ride drew widespread criticism, the revelations about his expenses and the nature of his trip have left many people outraged. Starmer, who has been positioning himself as the champion of the average British citizen, seems to be living a lifestyle that is far removed from the struggles of the people he claims to represent after taking a commercial flight to Madeira to avoid scrutiny. Many assume that Starmer was attempting to keep his holiday low-key. However, it has recently emerged that he returned to the United Kingdom on a private jet reportedly funded by one of Labour's donors. This private flight, which landed at Leeds Bradford Airport, has raised serious questions about Starmer's transparency and commitment to ethical leadership for someone who continuously preaches about climate responsibility and the need for fairness. This move reeks of hypocrisy. Flying privately is not only an extravagant choice, but also one that significantly contradicts the environmental rhetoric. SDA and his party often espouse the villa he rented during his stay in Madeira adds another layer to the story booked through an unnamed island company. The property was reportedly chosen with the express purpose of shielding Starmer and his family from public and media scrutiny. This level of secrecy has only fueled speculation about what he was trying to hide. If everything about this trip was above board, why go to such lengths to keep the details under wraps? The attempt to avoid criticism by concealing the nature of his travels has backfired spectacularly, as the public now views this as yet another example of Starmer enjoying perks and privileges that ordinary citizens could never dream of. What makes this situation even more infuriating is the pattern that is beginning to emerge despite the backlash he has faced in the past for accepting freebies. And Favours Starmer seems unwilling or unable to break free from this behaviour. Whether it's lavish holidays, privately funded travel, or other undisclosed perks, the Labour leader's actions betray a deep disconnect from the realities faced by the majority of British people at a time when millions are struggling with the cost of living, crisis, skyrocketing energy bills and stagnant wages. Seeing a political leader indulge in such extravagance is nothing short of insulting. The hypocrisy of it all is staggering Labour. Under Starr's leadership has consistently criticised others for their ties to the wealthy elite and for failing to prioritise the needs of ordinary citizens. Yet here he is jetting off on luxurious holidays, funded by donors and hiding behind a veil of secrecy. If Starmer truly cared about the British public, he would lead by example. Instead, his actions suggest that he is more interested in enjoying the perks of his position than in addressing the issues that matter most of the people of this country. The question now is whether Starmer supporters will continue to turn a blind eye to this behaviour. How long can Labour voters ignore the glaring inconsistencies between what their leader says and what he does, for all the talk about fairness, equality and transparency? The Labour Party under Starmer seems to be operating in a way that is anything but. This latest controversy is not an isolated incident. It is part of a larger pattern that should alarm anyone who believes in holding political leaders accountable. It's also worth noting the broader implications of this behaviour. If Starmer is willing to accept these kinds of perks and hide the details from the public while he is still in opposition, what can we expect if he ever becomes Prime Minister? The idea that someone with such a cavalier attitude toward accountability and transparency could lead the country is deeply troubling. The British people deserve leaders who are honest, who live by the values they preach, and who prioritise the needs of the nation over their own personal comforts. Starmer has repeatedly shown that he is not that leader. The outrage over this holiday is not just about the money spent or the secrecy surrounding it, it's about what it represents. It's a stark reminder that the political elite often live by a different set of rules than everyone else, while the average British family is forced to make sacrifices, tighten their budgets and endure hardships. Politicians like Starmer seem to glide through life unaffected, enjoying privileges that are out of reach. For the majority, the British public has every right to demand better. ST's actions are a slap in the face to everyone who believed in his promises of change and integrity. The Labour Party, if it wants to retain any shred of credibility, needs to address this issue head on. But let's be honest, will they, or will they continue to shield their leader from criticism, hoping this latest scandal will blow over like so many others? The real question now is whether the British public will hold Starmer accountable for his actions. His luxurious lifestyle funded by donors and cloaked in secrecy is a direct insult to the people he claims to represent. It's time for voters to demand answers and to make it clear that this kind of behaviour will not be tolerated. If Starmer cannot lead with honesty and integrity, then he has no business leading at all. The choice is clear. Either Labour gets its house in order, or the British people will make their voices heard in the next election.